So I'm with the beloved Father Mark Mason, now a day over 74. He invited me up to his parish, where I used to be an associate, St. Francis the Needed, for a penance rite. And so as part of his penance for making me drive up here, asking me to drive up here, I want to talk to him a little bit about the sacrament of confession. So we had tonight, I don't know, what, 120 kids over the course of the day?
Well, probably during the course of the day, at least 120 people.
Okay.
But most of them were kids, yes.
So, Mark, Father Mason, sorry. Every single one of the people who came to confession today is going to come to Mass every Sunday from now on, and they understand the sacrament completely.
I wish.
Yeah, okay. So, the reality is that lots of, maybe young people especially, we drag them to the sacrament, and we give them confession, we give them confirmation later too, and it doesn't seem to always make a difference in their life in the immediate long term, let's say that. But does that mean that the sacrament isn't really a thing? Because lots of other churches have sort of similar kind of events or sort of quasi, stepping stones in faith things, but they're just events, sorry non-Catholics, but a Catholic sacrament of confirmation and confession is a tangible giving of God's grace in a way that other things aren't, but we don't always see the effects of that. Why don't we see the effects of it?
Because conversion's a slow process. We're always being converted towards and with God. And so the movement of God is always directing us towards Him within our own lives.
And does the sacrament...
So, does it mean that if I go to confession, I'm never going to sin again? I'm a human being, and I have a temperament, and my temperament sometimes gets in the way of God's grace.
And we can say there's lots of people's temperaments that really isn't prepared for what God has to give. They come to confession maybe because they're required to for an event, but they don't receive, the grace is given, but they don't receive it and put it into practice.
No, I think a lot of them come to confession, and what I'm noticing with young people, there's been a lot of introspection.
Okay.
And I am very surprised as to how honest they are.
Yeah.
And understand that there are things that have happened in their lives that they've reacted to in a very negative way, or that they've embraced things that are not healthy, and they're willing to admit it.
Yeah.
And that's a grace in itself.
Yeah.
Because it's a recognition that their lives are turned away from God, and there's a need to turn it towards God.
Yeah.
And so what I'm finding, even though we ask the kids to come to confession before they make confirmation, what I found in this event, this today,
yeah,
was kids who were very honest.
Yeah.
And they were nervous about it.
Yeah.
But relieved.
Yeah.
That they could go into the dark parts of their heart and bring it into the light and have it healed.
Yeah, I mean, my confessions were like that too. Obviously, we're not gonna say anything that we heard in confession, who we heard it from. But yeah, there's this. You can see their body language even, it changes once they confess. But,
not only in their body language, but even in their breathing.
Oh yeah. The demeanor all changes. But what's sad for us priests very often is that we see these kids at this occasion, and we may not see them again till there's a funeral or a wedding or something like that. Which is a difficult part.
Father, even when we hear a confession from someone that's been away from the church for 10 years,
yeah,
the fact that they come back after 10 years,
yes,
in itself is the movement of God in their lives.
Indeed.
And that is a grace given to them, a special grace given to them by God to get up and say, you know what? I need to go to confession.
Indeed.
I need to get back in line with God. I need to turn my life around. That's a movement of God in their life. That's a grace.
Definitely.
And they come to confession to sort of get the fullness of that grace, that healing hand of God, and and put their life that has maybe somewhat been dark
Yeah.
into a light.
Nice. Now, you've given a wise old priest answer, and that's why I asked you, because I knew you'd be nicer than me. But forgive the young priest for saying, Father, maybe they shouldn't wait 10 years for the next confession. Can we say that too?
We can say that too, but a lot of stuff happens to people in life.
Yeah.
And I am so glad when they do return after 10 years. But you're absolutely right. Frequent confession for people who really have their focus on God is essential.
Yeah.
Regardless, so once a month is always good.
Yeah. That's something I tell, again, when someone comes to confession and it's been more than 5 or 6 months, I say, you know what? Thank you for coming to confession today. Jesus loves you so much.
That's right.
But don't wait 5 years again, right? We want to give you God's mercy. Like, you will be happier if you come to confession way more often, right?
And also, if you think you're a repeat offender, don't worry about that.
Yeah, because everybody is.
Because everybody's a repeat offender. We just need God's grace to keep us moving towards Him.
Yeah.
And so, but we've got to make that step towards God. Jesus is always passing by.
Yeah.
And if you read the Gospels, you'll see Jesus is always passing by. And when He passes by, there's an opportunity for people to get in touch with His presence.
Yeah.
And He's always passing by.
Yeah.
And in confession, He passes by in a real way, and we can encounter Him.
Wow. Yeah. Mark, you've heard way more confessions than I ever have, but I know it too. The confession is such a beautiful experience, and we love hearing confessions. Every priest, basically for any occasion, if you say, probably can I go to confession? Heck yes, you can go to confession. We love hearing the sacrament. We love giving the sacrament of confession because we know just how much grace you all receive from it. We go to confession with each other too.
That's right.
And it's
all the time.
So
frequently. And the other thing, what I'm surprised, I thought confessions were almost dead in Enid.
Yeah.
I'm the pastor of Enid, by the way. And I thought years ago, we killed him.
Yeah.
What surprises me is that we spend, 2 priests here in Enid, over 4 hours a week hearing confessions, and those are solid hours.
Wow.
So confessions are up.
Wow.
People are utilizing the sacrament more.
Yeah, what are they getting from it? For those who maybe if their parish doesn't have that many confessions, they don't go that often, what do your people discover that other people should discover too?
Basic freedom to love God and let God love them.
Yeah.
It's a freedom. It's a freeing experience. And because they're getting God's grace.
Wow.
And God's grace is always freeing.
Yeah.
And sin binds. Sin enslaves. Confession, where we have the grace of God from the cross, frees us.
Wow. He's totally right. I mean, if you've never been to confession in a while or haven't been at all, believe us that it does. And like, again, it's so beautiful to see people come to confession. You can see it, they're burdened, they're weighed down, they literally sit hunched over in the chair. Once they finish confessing, they're physically lighter. And that's just an outward symbol of the grace that God gives, and we're so happy to give that sacrament. So please, if you haven't been to confession in a while, or if you've been recently, you need to go again, make that time, go before Mass, wherever it is, ask your pastor. If there's not enough scheduled confession times, whatever, just ask him for it. Be like, Father, I need to go to confession. Will you hear my confession? And he will. If he doesn't, come find us another priest and we'll do it, because the sacrament is just so important.
It's very important.
Such a huge blessing. So
very important.
God gives us His grace and gives us priests the opportunity to pour it out for everybody else. So it's a beautiful sacrament. Don't be afraid of it. Jesus loves you.
Thank you.